I ended last year's top 10 by saying I think it really was a pretty good year for games. But after 2019, 2018 can go fuck itself. Good God, what a tremendous improvement. And apparently this is a somewhat controversial opinion? People claiming that 2019 had no games? What the hell is wrong with you people? 2019 was the best year for games since, well, it was better than last year, let's just say that. I finished 18 games that came out in 2019, and I played about 25 or so. These were the games that I didn't play this year because they didn't look that great. These were the games I didn't play this year, but they did look pretty great, and I just couldn't find the time. And these were the games that I started but didn't finish for whatever reason. Probably being bad. And quick disclaimer, I love every game in my top 10. But I definitely put some games that a lot of people didn't really like a lot higher than some other games that a lot of people really loved, so just brace for that. Okay, so why exactly did I need this disclaimer? Well, I kind of put Fire Emblem at the lowest spot in my top 10. I'm sorry.
Let's all agree to meet back at the monastery exactly 5 years from today.
Like a class reunion?
You will come, won't you?
Kill every last one of them!
I have never been really a Fire Emblem fan. I had never really gotten into it. And something about Three Houses really inspired me to play it, and I'm so glad I did. I chose Blue Lions, the clear choice in my opinion, and as I played through it, I was made almost dizzy by how much content I could tell I was missing out on by making this choice. Which is a compliment. Three Houses is over 3 times bigger than just what one run feels like, and it already feels absolutely huge. The combat gameplay is your standard waifu chess, but the presentation was great, even if the raw visuals were a little on the rough side.
Oh god!
But the Xavier's School for Gifted Youngsters gameplay, that was super good. Teaching these students was such a fulfilling experience, and a really smart way to contextualize raising and training a party of fighters. I was so proud of my babies. Every time Annette got another level, I was so proud. Every time Ash won MVP, I couldn't be happier. I am Hilary Swank, and these are my freedom riders. And the story itself was great too, just another example of where I can only imagine how different it would have gone down if I had chosen one of the other 2 houses. And that's where I have to admit, I only played one run of the game. So if number 10 feels way too low, it probably is, and consider this number 10 until further notice. Resident Evil 2.
X gon' give it to ya, he gon' give it to ya, X gon' give it to ya, he gon' give it to ya, first we gonna...
I'm trying to keep this video a lot shorter than my video from last year, so I can't start every entry from now on apologizing for how low it is. But this one's important. I really gotta apologize for this being so low. I thought it would be a lot higher. Ultimately, I guess I ended up deprioritizing it a little bit because it is a remake, but this is the gold standard of video game remakes. We came into 2019 with Resident Evil 2 already being considered one of the most classic horror games ever. And now we have the new version, which is probably one of the best horror games of the 2010s? That doesn't seem that far off to me. How many other games even compare from this decade? The gameplay is as classic as it comes. It felt like the past 2 decades of bad game design decisions in horror games was completely wiped away. And for some reason, I never really thought of Resident Evil as being that scary. I had never played them, but they never looked like truly horrific games, like Amnesia or something, but Resident Evil 2 is completely terrifying.
Why won't he just stay down?
Now, I am a bit more baby than most gamers, but this was a hard game for me to play, and I played it twice. Ultimately, this game just feels like pure gaming excellence. Remake or not, it deserves to be on every top 10 list this year. With Resident Evil 3 coming out in 2020, fingers crossed that this game kicked off a better decade for horror than we had in the 2010s. Because it was rough.
After you.
Gee, thanks.
Okay, number 8 is a sequel. And yes, it is missing a couple features that a lot of people really liked, and this game definitely didn't end up on a lot of other top 10 lists, but I think it added some new great features, and I just can't help myself. This is my favorite video game series of all time, and that's not the right footage. That's the wrong footage.
Hey, look, mom, mama, best believe it. Mama, best believe it. Think I must be dreaming.
Favorite game of the year? No, but Super Mario Maker 2 is without a doubt the game I played the most in 2019. I probably put 150 hours into it, at least. Oh wait, I can check. How do you check? Where is it? Oh, 220 hours? Jesus! Functionally, it's probably not that different from the first game, but I didn't really get the chance to play the first game because I was living in the middle of nowhere and I didn't have any good internet. While I do miss some of the finer details like Weird Mario, Mario Maker 2 is basically feature complete, and it's everything I wanted from this game and then some. And they just released this huge update with a ton of new interesting stuff, and Link is in the game now? I've barely had a chance to really dive into this content, but the little bit that I played is so great. I made a bunch of levels, but I only published one because it was the only one that felt finished. And it has a 2% clear rate, and I don't think that's because it's hard. I think that's because people just keep skipping it when it comes to them in the 100 Mario challenge, because it's kind of a pain in the ass. But you can play it if you want. Give me a Miiverse, yeah.
Yeah.
This game was very useful to me, because this game was my anxiety relief. I developed quite a strong bond with it, and in my opinion, Mario Maker 2 has one of the best features that a video game can have. It's so comfy. I probably played 1,000 levels this year. And I downloaded like 50, and one day I'm gonna sit down and play through all of them like it's a new Mario game. It's good. I love this game.
Oh no!
And the indie darling of 2019 is...
Am I deranged?
I don't want to alarm you, but probably.
Can I have your hat when they commit you?
Sure, little buddy.
One of the most critically acclaimed games of the year, one of the highest scores on Metacritic of the year, and it won the most game awards. And despite all of that, Disco Elysium really is as good as people say it is. I have never played a game like this before. It's a combination of a Western RPG and a mystery point-and-click adventure game, and these work together so well that it's kind of surprising that I've never played something like it. Why isn't this more of a thing? It is pure, raw, mystery, puzzle, and you really have to think, and it's really hard, and I may have checked a walkthrough once or twice to get a nudge in the right direction. I'm not condoning that, I'm just confessing that. And while the gameplay is definitely good, it's not the main appeal of this game. The main appeal is obviously the writing. Disco Elysium is written a lot like a novel, specifically kind of a pulpy mystery noir novel, but with a really modern, almost conversational twist. And by modern, I don't mean like...
Now, let's talk business.
I got business. She actually said business.
That's my...
No, that's not what I mean. But the writing and the gameplay work so well together, too. For example, my favorite feature of the game, the stats. This is probably one of my favorite implementations of stats, like ever in a game. Each one of your stats is a voice in your head linked to a personality trait, an emotion, or even your own physiology. They talk to you and help guide your actions in what I can only describe as a really twisted version of that Pixar movie Inside Out, except instead of 5 cute characters, you have 24 insane, demented characters that all hate each other and you, argue with each other, give conflicting advice, and one of them is just really, really addicted to every drug. These voices are all controlling you, an extremely dysfunctional, alcoholic, drug addict detective who is compelled to constantly make the expression. This character is probably the strangest and most fascinating main character of this year. Disco Elysium is another one of those games where I can just tell that there's a lot of content that I missed, just by the nature of playing the game. And we're not done with those kinds of games yet, so stick around.
gonna copy you.
Look at this. How does this make you feel? Would you believe this is a video game cover? What would you imagine the gameplay of this video game is like? Well, in 2019, I think someone finally made this game.
Put your little hand in mine. There ain't no hill or mountain we can't climb.
Did I say Disco Elysium was the indie darling of the year? Well, there were two, the other one being Outer Wilds. This game got Game of the Year at a lot of different places, and I even saw a lot of people say this game was the best game they've ever played? Aw, come on, don't undersell the game, tell us how you really feel. Honestly, I'm the one underselling it by only putting it at number 6. I said I was gonna stop doing that, damn it. Outer Wilds is a game about lore, mystery, exploration, discovery, and so much more. You're a little alien on a very small little fairy tale planet, and you have joined the space program. You're given a cute little woodsy ship, and you're given complete free reign to explore this solar system. As soon as you launch, as long as you don't crash into the sun...
Wait, is the sun moving?
You're not really given a direction to go in. Just a couple points of interest that look interesting to you. But literally pick anything that looks interesting and go there, and you will find yourself hooked into this web of mysteries. And you'll have 1,000 directions to go from there. Planets that are crumbling underneath your feet. Planets that have constant massive tornadoes. And bizarre moons that... where to go? The gameplay itself is little more than just flying around in your ship, landing, and looking at stuff. But it feels so much more engaging than it sounds, because there's just so much to see, and the depth of each planet is so much deeper than it looks on the surface. Sometimes literally. And there's even quite a bit of stuff that I've left out. First of all, because it's kind of a spoiler, and second of all, because I am really out of my depth here trying to understand everything that made this game so good. I am not a reviewer, and I'm not a game analyst. In fact, if you want my analysis of Outer Wilds, it's this. I should go ahead and end it here, because this was originally my number 10 game, and as I started writing about it, it slowly climbed up to my number 6 game. And if I don't stop soon, it'll probably end up as my number 1 game, so let's move on to number 5. Did I say Disco Elysium was the indie darling of the year? Well, there were two, the other one being Outer Wilds. This game got Game of the Year at a lot of, whoa. That was weird, sorry. Anyway.
Not to be racist or anything, but Asian people...
Made most of my favorite video games this year. I didn't intend to do this, it just kinda happened, but I didn't play a single big-budget Western game all year. And it wasn't really a good year for big-budget Western games. I mean, I will PayPal you $1,000 if you can tell me what this game is.
Giant cyborg asshole.
$2,000 if you remember this game. Not to mention all the high-profile failures. But there was one big-budget Western game that I really loved. And it's not Western, it's just by a Westaboo.
You can go your own way.
How do I even begin to write about Death Stranding? Well, for one, it's our first major example so far on this list of game critics being wrong, in my opinion. I went into this game with my high expectations completely nerfed by mixed reviews. I was nervous buying it, and I was pretty sure I wouldn't like it. And I heard it got a lot worse a few hours in, maybe about 10 hours in. And that moment never came. About 10 hours in was when I finally realized how much I was enjoying it. A lot of people were turned off by the gameplay, and you got me there. This is simply a question of whether or not you think this is fun. The gameplay is making deliveries from one point to another, mostly on foot. Please don't leave, I swear it's good. Don't skip the video ahead, stop it! Instead of zombies or terrorists to shoot or something, your enemy is your own balance. And also ghosts, those are your enemies too. And it does have terrorists. The difficulty curve is in the form of rougher terrain, worse weather, and heavier, more awkward cargo. And, you know, you can actually mitigate this difficulty a lot by making multiple trips, but no one ever does that because shut up, I want to get all the groceries in one trip. Okay, I'm gonna compare it to Dark Souls, I can't resist. The main story is about connecting people, and I was taken aback how I felt that during gameplay when I connected with other players through the ambient multiplayer. Like Dark Souls, you come across messages, and in this case, very important items and structures left by other couriers. Not only does this make this experience so much more enjoyable, it is directly in harmony with the themes of connecting people. And that theme is the main gist of the story, too, in which you're delivering something called the chiral network, and this is the segue to the story part of the essay, in which I kind of pretend I know what the hell I'm talking about. But the basics are, it's an apocalypse. Travel around and reconnect everyone's Wi-Fi. And this is probably one of the most interesting post-apocalypse scenarios I've ever seen in a game. A ghostly phenomenon dragging people into goo hell and a mysterious rainfall that causes rapid time acceleration, resulting in an empty, abandoned world of Bob Ross paintings and slow, melancholy dream pop. Oh yeah, this game will definitely get you into low roar too, and that's a good thing. Also, a whole bunch of other shit happens, and I cannot even begin to describe any of it. Jesus Christ! On one hand, I get why some people dislike the game. Some people are just gonna not like it. But on the other hand, I couldn't disagree more. Death Stranding is fantastic, fun, challenging, and breathtakingly beautiful. And if you're wondering if you'd like this game, I'll put it this way. If you've seen the footage and heard the basic delivery boy premise and thought, even for a second, I could probably get into that, then yes, go for it. It's for you, and you will love it. Some indie games try to be so dark and serious all the time, but some of my favorite indie games are bright, colorful, and just a whole bunch of fun. And my number 4 game is probably just the most lighthearted fun game of the year, and overall, well, it's just a darn good time. How do I talk about this game without getting a PTSD flashback? Pathologic 2 is a horror game, but not a horror game. It's not really scary, but it is absolutely a nightmare. Never have I played a game that's both so easy to recommend and yet so hard to recommend. Oh yes, Pathologic 2, the 6 out of 10 game that YouTube reviewers really loved and recommended, and suddenly now everyone loves it, and it's one of the most underrated games of the decade, on those same websites that could have rated it properly when they had the chance. This is the other big game on the list that was absolutely failed by critics, this one especially.
Pathologic 2 starts to feel less like an interesting failure and more like a budget Skyrim.
A complete, utter joke.
If the intent here is to follow Soulsian hard is good philosophy and
when the developers reluctantly added easier modes, they had to stress to people that Pathologic 2 is meant to be almost unbearable. That's exactly how I would describe it. But I would also describe it another way, and I think this is the magic of this game. Addictive is the wrong word. Fun is definitely the wrong word. But if you'll forgive the pun, Pathologic 2 is absolutely infectious. I could not put it down to the point where I played it for an entire Sunday, deep into the night, and that night I had nightmares about it. But what even is this game? Well, it's a first-person adventure game where you play as Artemi Barach, a young man who has just returned to his hometown village to find that his father has just been murdered. Great. And the game is about solving the mystery of your murdered father and the mysteries of this strange industrial town that seems almost out of time and space itself. And of course, after all of that, right after you arrive, the town is plunged into a plague. This is the main driving force of the game, dealing with this plague. You are a doctor, a Haruspex. It's your job to keep people from dying in this nightmare. But the problem is, you're in this nightmare too. You are also dying. And starving. The water and food shortages and medicine shortages that it causes is the direct source of why this game is so dreadful. It wrings your pathetic small man body for all it's worth. You're constantly starving. Water gets more and more rare. Food gets more and more expensive. The plague gets bigger, and you're getting closer to being infected if you aren't infected already. And everyone around you is dying. And through this pain came a gaming experience that I will never forget. I was enthralled with Pathologic 2. A lot of people, including myself earlier in this video, kind of shy away from recommending this game, even if they loved it. But you know what? I'm not gonna do that. I recommend this game. You should play it. I am terrible at video games, and if I can beat it, I know you can. And if you can stick with it through the very worst of this game, you'll come out on the other end with a deep appreciation for it. I hope. If not, sorry. Number 3 is definitely going to be the least well-written entry in the entire video, because there's only so many ways I can call a game perfect.
Devil may cry.
Dante, I'm trying to fight these demons, but I'm dummy thick and the clap of my ass keeps alerting them. I understand you and Nero have the same problem.
My top 3 games are so different that it's basically impossible to compare them in any sort of meaningful way, so if we want to consider this my game of the year, then we can just pretend that it is, why not? Devil May Cry 5 is probably the closest a game has come to flawless that I played this year. I played this game twice, and I didn't have a single issue with it. Gotta be honest, I feel a little bit intimidated writing about this game because I do not have a background with Devil May Cry. I just got into the series this year. Some people have been waiting their entire game-playing lives for this game. And as soon as this perfect, uncompromised Devil May Cry sequel finally comes out, I jump on the series in January by buying the full PS4 collection on sale, skipping the first half of it, and going, hey guys, I'm here too! I think that makes me a fair-weather fan of the series. People have extremely strong opinions about character action games, and I kinda don't. I've played a handful of them, and I like the genre quite a bit. But it's not really my genre. I've never been able to sink my teeth into it. So I don't know if DMC5 is the best action game ever made, because I don't know what I'm talking about, but I know for sure it's up there, and I'm pretty sure it's the best one I've ever played. Don't tell Bayonetta I said that. I still love Bayonetta 2. It might still be number 1. I don't know, like I said. I love the combat. I love the bosses. It doesn't have a single bad boss fight. I love the soundtrack, which at this point is iconic.
Frustration is getting bigger. Bang, bang, bang. Pull my devil trigger.
And I love every character so much. They're my family. DMC5 is not a character action game, it's a 3-character action game. Nero, Dante, and V all have completely different, fully realized playstyles, and I swear I could go for a full game of just V and his wacky road trip partners being overwhelmingly goth.
To see a world in a grain of sand, and a heaven in a wildflower. Hold infinity in the palm of your hand, and eternity in an hour.
I picked up this game and was swept away by it. I played it pretty much non-stop until I beat it over the course of a weekend, and it was such a wonderful, amazing, fun experience. And then a few weeks later, I got bored and did it all again on Son of Sparta. I was not a fan of Devil May Cry until this year, but I am now. The game welcomed me with open arms, like it didn't even mind I slept on the series for 18 years. I would recommend this game to anyone, whether they played the originals or not, whether they think they like action games. I loved it. I'm pretty sure it's a 10 out of 10. I don't know. All I know for sure is that it's pure gaming nirvana. Okay, I can't introduce number 2 like it's 2019. I have to introduce it like it's 1999.
You called in and you voted, and the number 2 game of 1999 is Hypnospace Outlawed! Jay Solon has won a walk-on role on The Amanda Show and an all-expenses-paid trip to Cool Fest 99!
Another game that was at one point since I started making this video lined up to be my game of the year. It's definitely my indie game of the year. I'm still not sure it's not my number one. I'm not sure about any of this. Hypnospace Outlaw took me by complete surprise. This is an extremely surreal game experience that took place entirely on a computer screen, and again, I promise it's good. I know this premise has been tried before, with results ranging from to okay. But this game shot right to the top of that microgenre. It's been called a Windows simulator of sorts, but it is a legitimate point-and-click puzzle game, with a narrative, with forward progression, and with surprisingly hard puzzles, all perfectly disguised as a completely open-ended internet browsing experience. This isn't just Windows 98, this is Windows 98 from an entirely different universe. The trends, the sites, and the music, and the people are all a product of a wildly different, but parallel 1990s. Specifically, the last couple months of 1999. That's right, this is a Y2K game. And it's not that game. You experience the slice of life from the perspective of an internet moderator.
Thank you for volunteering to help keep our wonderful community of Hypnospace citizens safe.
And you browse just a small section of web zones at a time, looking for evildoers, such as sad grandmas posting copyrighted fish, teens bullying other teens who are bullying them back, and everybody's favorite malware that shills pop-up ads that use Kappa Cash instead of HypnoCoin.
Professor Helper here. Need some help?
As you do your job, several things begin to happen. You get so easily sidetracked by the stories that you see unfolding. After banning Gumshoe Gooper, you get to watch a protest take place as the boomers in Good Time Valley have had enough of the mods and start mass posting Gumshoe Gooper. You watch a dorky hacker and a creepypasta writer go from best friends to alienating each other. You see a sad dad rock star from the late 80s, played by Hot Dad, struggle to find relevancy in today's music scene, which is spiraled out of control into cool punk and fungus scene, two microgenres that the game has basically invented and populated with music.
You gotta drink it up. All day and all night.
And you get to see a cool punk music festival, from secondhand reports of how it went terribly wrong. Then you come across this great little nerdy community that was basically ruined when an update deleted all their individual zones and forced them into one zone together. Exploring this land, looking for an unauthorized program that'll speed up your browsing, all while Chowderman sings the best song in the game all about shaving, is the absolute highlight of the game. You go from enforcing rules and playing with your desktop wallpaper and your virtual pet who shits everywhere and then dies, to getting incredibly invested in this web of characters that you grow to know and understand. You almost forget that you've been staring at a screen the whole time, and the story concludes in such a surprising and satisfying way that really makes you realize just how invested you've become. Hypnospace Outlaw is a masterpiece. It starts off as a surreal experience, but by the end of it, it felt completely real. And as excellent as Devil May Cry 5 and Hypnospace Outlaw are, I had to be honest. Going up?
It's me. Luigi.
I loved Luigi's Mansion 3 so much. It made me so happy. It's amazing. Now, is it objectively better than DMC5 or Outer Wilds or Disco Elysium or any of the other games I put on this list? Am I saying that this is really the best video game of the year? Yeah, that's why I made it number one, obviously. I don't know, look, I'm not a teacher, I'm not grading papers here. This is a more subconscious kind of decision, but all I know is that from the second I started playing it, I didn't care to analyze it. I just didn't want to put it down. It was a pleasure to play. It was so charming and fun and smart, and more importantly, maybe most importantly, this is a GameCube game in 2019. This game is ripped right from the era when Nintendo was at its most fun and creative and carefree in the early 2000s. After the revolutionary but kinda janky N64 era, and before the polished and successful but kinda bland and brandy era of the Wii and Wii U. It captured something that I missed. This kinda hard to describe level of scrappy charm. And I wasn't the only one to notice this particular X factor. This charm is absolutely encapsulated by my favorite main character of the year. Sorry, Harry, it's true. Luigi! Just look at this animation, this expression, this performance. I just love him so much. The cutscenes have so much expression and life to them, and the characters have so much personality. The gameplay is, well, you played Luigi's Mansion, you know it. It's simple, but it feels so good and it never gets old, especially with the new feature, Gooigi. This game gives you a vacuum cleaner with like 4 features and a goo twin, and using just these elements, they managed to go for 17 floors and not repeat an idea even once. Every floor was something new. I found myself so excited sitting in the elevator, just pressing the Mario button as hard as I could, just eager to see what the next floor would be, and it was never something I expected. Least of all, floor 8, the best floor in the game, possibly my favorite single level or chapter, mission, whatever you want to call it, of any game this year. On floor 8, you're in a large film studio. The boss is right there in the middle. He doesn't actually seem that evil. He's just too much of a depressed director to pay attention to you.
That's right, Jay.
You're then given the choice of entering 4 green screen sets. And after messing around with stuff for a while, you realize you can enter a fully directed scene. What follows is easily my favorite puzzle in the game. It was so cool. I don't want to spoil it though, so I'm not going to show much. Watching Floor 8 unfold was such a great moment, and I was just so pleased with this game for being that clever. And the boss of this level is also not a standard boss, but it manages to be the best boss in the game, too. And I also don't dare show a frame of that. The hotel itself is the other main character, with every new floor a beautifully crafted world filled with detail and hidden areas and just loose stuff to play with. They even give you a room full of sand. That's brilliant! Yeah, the main gameplay element is a vacuum cleaner, and they had the absolute brilliant foresight to give you a room full of sand. I could continue gushing about every specific detail, so I will. I love how the start menu starts off this way, and then changes into this. I love how the bellboys are just obvious ghosts with weird masks. That's great right away. At one point, the game gives you a chainsaw and makes everything in the room destructible. The collectathon elements are great and wonderfully retro, and being rewarded with a glowy thingy made me feel so proud for just messing around with something random. I like how Luigi is terrified by everything that moves. I love his dog. I like how Luigi is terrified by his dog. All the boss ghosts are so well designed. I love how you can suck up the toads and throw them around the room. I did this 100 times. I love this chest.
Hello?
I love that the communication device is just a virtual boy, complete with black and red colors. And of course I always enjoy it whenever Luigi's reaction to being delayed by something stupid is the same reaction I have. And the water level is pretty much terrible. But hey, it's at least an interesting water level. It uses Gooigi kind of brilliantly, and you're constantly jumping back and forth from being in the water and on the land with Gooigi. And even though I died a lot to stupid crap, I still ended up enjoying it. And I'm of the philosophy that you don't truly love a game unless you've said, "Fuck this game," at least once. I loved the beginning. I loved the end. And everything in between. Luigi's Mansion 3 was the best time I had playing a video game this year. And when I thought about it that way, of course it was my game of the year. And maybe more than anyone else,
Hello?
Luigi deserves this.
Whoa. Got it. Yeah. Luigi. Oh, yeah.
Cute and stupefyingly clever. I never played a puzzle game that made me feel this dumb. I liked it, but I can't play it. This broke the curse of Kickstarter and was actually really good. I kind of ruined it for myself though, because right before playing this I played Symphony of the Night, and it's not that good. This is not an honorable mention at all. I actually didn't like this game. Major disappointment. Very cute and very fun, but it's no Yoshi's Island. They'll never make another Yoshi's Island. But it does have an axe murderer, so that's weird. Obviously overrated, but still extremely amusing. I've never felt more like a terrorist. Guess what? I liked Pokemon Sword and Shield. It was pretty good. Come on, it was better than Gen 7, you know it. Definitely flawed, but not bad. Look at my flat boys. Look at this thing. I love this thing. Hotline Miami, but side-scrolling and samurai. Great style, great soundtrack. This was the last game that I cut from my top 10. But it's okay, because technically it's not even out yet, so it'll be eligible next year, too. It's very, very good. And why not? Here's the games that I didn't finish, but I still played some of. Beautiful and expertly crafted game that I am simply unable to play. I can't play it. I just can't. I tried. I can't. I gave up. Also, probably a mistake to play Dark Souls right before playing this. Absolutely did not have time to finish this. I'll probably finish it in 2020. I really loved Astral Chain at first, and I definitely really wanted to love it. And then I ended up getting kind of bored with it. Something about it just didn't really inspire me to play it. I dropped it. Kind of disappointing, to be honest. I always said I was going to come back and finish this game, but I never did, and then my free trial for Xbox Game Pass ran out, so we'll probably never finish it. Sorry. Wow, this video was hard to make. It's so hard to write 10 book reports in a row. And it really was down to the wire. I had already made most of this video before I decided what my number one was, and looking back, I'm very happy with that choice. It feels the most right. Anyway, thank you guys for watching. See you guys next year when I give Cyberpunk 2077 my number 2 spot, even though it's the best game ever made, and number 1 goes to Animal Crossing. That's totally gonna happen. Anyway, see you guys next year, and Trainwreck Awards are coming soon.